how to make our money work for us. And you know what? I'm going to make it work for me, too.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being on our show again, because you were here before and back by popular demand.
Oh, goodness.
People want to hear more about this because you're giving us some information that we need to know. Now, let's get back to Bob and John. Now, Bob, he invested in the stock market, but John didn't do that, did he?
No.
Let's talk about John.
Well, John put his money where most people put their money in our community, in the bank or in one of those cash type insurances and policies. And what he did was he waited just like Bob for it to grow. And as a consequence, at the end of the same period that Bob had waited, he had only a fraction as much. In the example, if we can cut to that, in the example here, John had 60,000, and Bob, on the other hand, had over 1/3 of a million.
After 30 years.
After 30 years. Now, again, it doesn't take 30, it doesn't take 20. If you become proactive, that means that you were making contributions and working with the account.
And in this case, they were putting in a lump sum of $10,000.
And they just left it.
And left it there.
And that's a passive.
Didn't bother it.
Didn't bother.
Didn't go back and say, I got to get some money out to buy some Christmas gifts.
No.
They let it stay there.
They let it stay there.
And then bother it.
And
okay,
they let it stay and they let it grow.
Okay.
And so that's a passive account. And they just let it work. If you become active and make regular contributions, you can shorten the time frame to reach that particular goal. In other words, once you know how money works, you can make it custom fit your need. Now, let's hit on John and see what happened with John. Now, John's a good man. He worked hard. But John, he needed to retire also. And he needed that same $1,000 that Bob had to supplement his pension and his Social Security. And he tried to do the same thing because groceries cost him the same amount of money. Gasoline cost him the same amount of money. So what happened, he started pulling out $12,000 a year.
$12,000 from the $60,000,
From the 60, just like Bob did out of the 350. But if you'll notice, it started going down. It wasn't high enough. In other words, it hadn't reached 6 figures to begin with, and he had a single digit driving it. That single digit, 6%, driving it, and the combination caused it not to do what Bob's did. So each year it got to be less and less and less. And after several years, John is in a position where he's obliged to go back to work. When you see people out there, our older folk at Walmart pushing out baskets, at McDonald's flipping burgers, think about it. These are not bad people. They're not stupid people. What they did was they followed the system as it was presented to them. They did what they knew to do. And this is what happens. When they run out of money, they have to go back to work. That's why they're out there.
So in other words, he did not allow this money over here, the $60,000, to accumulate
No, what
long
happened,
enough?
it did not grow big enough. There's
There's
a thing called critical mass, I like to term it.
Okay.
You have to have an account value when you retire in the 6 figures, preferably 7, but at least up into the 6 figures, in order for that endowment principle to kick in, for you to be able to take out a meaningful amount of money without impacting negatively your account value. So you have to build it up to a certain point for it to be self-sustaining. That's what we were talking about. And John's case with the 60,000, it never got there.
But just suppose John didn't even touch that.
Well, if he let it ride for a while longer, if he lived another 30 years, it would probably be up near where Bob had it. But at some point, we're going to want to go to the beaches of the world. And most of us would like to go there while we could still move around under our own power.
Right.
So if there's a better way to do it, why not take advantage of it? And that's what we're suggesting now. We're not saying that the other was bad or whatever. We're just saying that if you really want your money to grow, if you really want to be able to retire and be in control of your finances at an earlier age, we recommend that you consider this type of situation.
And this information is very good for our young people, too.
Exactly.
Because you need to start early. Leave some of those shoes alone and that jewelry and all that other stuff and start investing and start saving your money.
Exactly.
Because, you know, when you get my age, you're going to start thinking about retirement, and I may have to end up like John over here.
Exactly.
But I don't want to be that way, too. Well, let's talk about age, for instance. But before we go into that, I know we're not going to probably have time to finish this question I'm about to ask, but we'll get it on our next segment.
Okay.
Let's take a 50-year-old woman.
Yes.
Who's getting ready to retire.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, think about that now, because
yes, I am.
I'm thinking along John's, I didn't invest, we didn't invest. What can we do? To find out, stay tuned.
This is Vicki White, host of Open Window. We are interested in creating programming based upon local organizations and services. Please accept this invitation to call us or email us with your interests, ideas, and concerns. Let's review them. We're also in need of...
Michael Jordan, UNCF, take one.
We're here to tell you about the College Fund. It was set up to help deserving kids get a chance to be what they want to be. Are there any future doctors in the house?
Yeah!
Any scientists?
Yeah!
What about teachers?
Yeah!
All right, now who's going to play professional basketball? Come on. It's a good job. Please join me and support the College Fund. Your mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah!
Hi, this is Open Window, and welcome back to our show. Listen, we have a wonderful guest today, backed by popular demand, Mr. C. Frank Johnson, and he's a financial analyst, and he's been talking to us and telling us a lot of information that I need to know and you need to know. Now, we've talked about two fictitious characters, or people, John and Bob. Bob invested in the stock market. John kind of took it, put it in the bank, held on to it. Mm-hmm. But there's some differences there as after 30 years.
Yes.
I brought up a case, not John and Bob, but let's just say Miss X. Okay?
All righty, Miss X.
50 years old.
Yes.
Okay? 20 years of service on her job.
Mm-hmm.
$60,000. What can she do with it?
Okay. Now, in this particular case, the more mature
yes.
we get.
Well, thank you for changing.
The more mature we become.
Okay.
We have to become more proactive. In this example that we looked at earlier, the individuals were passive. They put away a lump sum and forgot it. If you've got time, you can do that. If not, if you're looking at a very short window, 5, 10 years, you can still do it. But now you're going to have to become active. You're going to have to make contributions. We generally recommend you do it on a monthly basis. And that will achieve the same thing. It'll just require you have to become more involved. And after all, it is your future, so why not? So that's how we do it. So if you're an older person, you're not out of luck or whatever. It simply means that you have to be more aggressive with what you're doing. But whatever you do, remember, get competent advice before you make a move. We don't want to do this helter-skelter, because at this point, every year is critical and we don't want to lose any of them.
And I think too, Mr. Johnson, that's one of the reasons why people become the Johns, because they know they have a set of money, they have this fixed set of money, and they know that they're going to be retiring very soon, or they have a well, it may be 20 years from there, but they would rather not risk anything.
Well, all of life is a risk, and we can't get around it. Even if you took that cash and put it in a box and buried it in the ground, you're subject to loss. And we have a thing in this economy called inflation. It attacks whether you want it to or not, whether you are thinking about it or not. If you took cash money and buried it in the ground or put it under your mattress, it would still lose value, because that thief, inflation, will come in and take away from its buying power. You're going to lose regardless. Even when you have it in the bank, you have inflation coming in. So that 6% is not net. The 6% is gross. You have to subtract inflation. Inflation's running officially 2 to 3%. A lot of places in our community, it feels more like the traditional 5 or more. But you have to subtract that from whatever it is you're getting on the account before you can realize a net gain. So you're going to be at risk whether you're trying or not trying. So why not try?
What's negative investing?
Negative investing. Negative investing is what we do when we go and we charge things. When we have bills that we owe Sears and Roebuck, MasterCard, Visa, and I have an example of that we'll go into in just a moment. But negative investment is debt. Debt. And see, I can show people all day long how they can make 12% or more on their money. But what good is it going to do if you're getting 12% on your money in your investment if you're paying 24% to Sears and Roebuck? I don't know if you've looked at those statements, but look again, and 24 has shown up. What it is the equivalent of is a hole in your bucket. We're pouring it in at 12%, and it's running out at 24, 19, 18. So again, negative investment is a key factor to get under control early. You have to get out from under debt.
Unfortunately, you know, I look at some of the students who are in college, and I remember being on a college campus, and I think I mentioned this before on the other program that we had together. There are so many applications out there asking you to fill them out, for the gas cards and department store cards, and next thing you know, oh, you have about 5 or 6 cards before you even leave college.
Exactly.
Negative investment.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to stop now. You go ahead.
Okay, thank you. That's so good. I have an example on the board here now, and this is an example of a credit card debt. In this particular example, if you have a credit card at 19% and you run it up to its full $3,000 limit, and you take and make the minimum payment that the company requires, then it will take you, as this example shows, 39 years to pay it off.
Oh, wow.
And when you do pay it off, you would have paid an additional $10,000 for the privilege.
Oh, gee.
That's credit cards. Debt forever.
Do you find yourself in that predicament? I'll tell you what, stay tuned because we have more on Open Window in just a moment.
This is Vicki White, host of Open Window. We are interested in creating programming based upon local organizations and services. Please accept this invitation to call us or email us with your interests, ideas, and concerns. Let's review them. We're also in need of sponsors.
Hi, this is Open Window, and welcome back to our show. Our guest today is Mr. C. Frank Johnson, and he's talking about how to make your money work for you. We've talked about a lot of issues today, and if you missed it, I'm very sorry, but you're going to have to call us, and we can get you a hookup with Mr. Johnson because he has a lot of information that you need to know. We're talking about debt management right now. A lot of times we call this negative investment, right? When we have all these charge cards. Let's talk about a little bit about that, because before we can go and invest $10,000 or $200, sometimes we are rolling in debt.
Exactly.
Okay?
Essentially, debt, and I call it negative investing, is exactly that. It is negative. It's taken away from whatever else you're doing on a positive note. And too often our kids get caught up in it early on before they even realize what is going on. Right now, I don't understand how the government allows it in their infinite wisdom, but kids in school, in college, freshmen, get credit cards sent to them in the mail. Not the application, the credit card. And if the kid is away at school, it may be months before the parent even realizes that the student has the card. And you know what's done happened by that time. So by that time, the student is already going the other way. So it is very important that we curb debt, that debt is used only as a last resort. And when we do have it, we get out from under it as soon as possible, because debt keeps you from growing your future.
Let's talk about the chart a little bit, okay?
Okay. And again, in the chart that we were just looking at, we had that example with the credit card situation. What happened, this is very common. I went to one of the local colleges to speak a few months back, and I was setting up to do the presentation, and one of the young ladies in the class, one of the students, when she realized I was that money man, she asked me very poignantly, what do I do about this credit card? That was, she knew nothing, but I was the money man. What do I do about this credit card? She's a freshman in college. She's already in the hole. So if we can keep our kids out, and we can, keep them out from under, please, because this is going to hamstring them for the rest of their life if it isn't gotten under control early. But to make a long story a little shorter, a credit card essentially is a way to be in debt forever. So that's negative investment.
And when we talk about being in debt forever, why do you say that?
Because if you make the minimum payments that are requested of you, and a lot of people do, because they don't have just one credit card. As the example shows, they can have a number of credit cards. And as a consequence, when you add up all those minimum monthly payments, it amounts to a very sizable portion. As this example is showing, as much as 78% of the disposable income. If most of your disposable income is going to service debt, what do you have to service your future? So that's why we find ourselves in so much of a jam, is because early on, our bucket had a big hole.
But Mr. Johnson, don't you think it's controlled, though? You could have 5 credit cards. I think the chart, I'm sorry, I'm turning away from the mic, and I shouldn't be doing that because I'm losing. But the chart is saying the average family has, what, 8 charge cards? But you can have 8 in your pocket. But isn't it control?
It is. It's discipline. It is discipline. You're absolutely right.
Because sometimes I feel that every now and then you kind of like need 1 or 2, don't you?
You need one, but you don't carry a balance.
Yeah.
That's the key. Use it, but don't let it use you.
Right, I like that.
So you use it, don't carry a balance. If you're going to travel, you got to have one for hotels, for reservations, whatever. But don't carry a balance on it. Most of these cards will allow you at least 25 days from the time of purchase before you actually incur interest. So I recommend that you would do that at all possible. And there's a word that used to be used a long time ago, but I don't hear it very much, and it's called delayed gratification. I know, it's an old wives' tale, and I guess I might be showing my age, but this was taught to us when I came along. You put off till tomorrow some of the joys so that you could enjoy forever.
We've got a lot more to talk about here, and I don't want the audience to go away. I want you to stay tuned, because Mr. Johnson is giving us some pertinent information that all of us can use, because it's opening the windows up to some of the things that we need to do to straighten out this debt problem that we probably have or may have, where our young people may not even want to. Our young people don't necessarily have to get into it because they can start out their lives very fruitful. So don't you go away. Stay tuned for more of Open Window.
is Vicki White, host of Open Window. We are interested in creating programming based upon local organizations and services. Please accept this invitation to call us or email us with your interests, ideas, and concerns. Let's review them. We're also in need of sponsors.
You know trouble can start when the clock hits 3.
When there's no place after school for kids to be.
Nothing to do but hanging on city streets.
When mom and dad are working to make ends meet. Now it's time to beat the street.
With after-school programs, city kids aren't left alone and vulnerable. They keep on learning between 3 and 6, but these programs need your support. Join with the Urban League to keep them going. Call now, because it's
time to beat the street.
Open Window.
Hi, this is Open Window, and welcome back to our show. Our guest today is Mr. C. Frank Johnson. He's a financial analyst, and he's been telling us how to make our money work for us. And you know what? This is a family-oriented show. The information that you have been giving us today on this particular show not only will help me, but it will help the young folk as well.
Exactly.
Even the little children, when they are given allowances,
yes.
I would encourage them, and would you not, to save some of that allowance.
Exactly.
Because they will see over a period of time how this money will grow for them.
Exactly.
I think we need to start teaching our children at a very early age, even about how to make money work for us.
Exactly. There is no too early age. You can start with various things. It doesn't have to be cash, but something that the child values and looks forward to. And establishing that cause and effect relationship, that you put away or you do something first before you get the reward later, so that this goes with them all through their lives. Back to that funny term, delayed gratification. Again, I don't hear it very much, and I don't see it very much. Everyone wants to get as much as they can as soon as they can, and that entails going into debt, which is bondage. Debt is bondage. And the Bible even speaks to that, but I won't go into that too much, but it's bondage. So, teach the kid early on.
And we want to get out of that bondage.
Exactly.
Let's talk about mutual funds. What are they?
Okay. We mentioned earlier about going into the stock market. There's a number of ways that you can get involved in the stock market. But for most people who don't have the experience, who don't have the resources, who don't have the, who are not in a position to spend the time that it takes to do all that's necessary to modify or to monitor their account, we recommend the use of professionally managed mutual funds. And what in the world is a mutual fund? Well, a mutual fund is simply, and if we'll cut to our example here, a mutual fund is simply a number of small investors, just like you and me, putting away our money and pooling our money. And by so doing, we're able to get the attention of professional management. We're able to take advantage of various investment principles like diversification. And that's a big word that simply means you don't put all your eggs in one rock crusher. So this gives us the same benefit as someone who has a last name like Kennedy or Mellon or Rockefeller. When they go in to invest, everybody listens because they're investing 6, 7 figures. But in our case, we go in with what we go in with, and we get pretty well ignored. So if we pool our money, we can get the same treatment. That's what a mutual fund does. It allows you to take advantage of the stock market just like the well-heeled folks without having to be there to begin with.
Okay, let's for instance, one of our viewers is interested in mutual funds. What do they do?
Okay, what you would do is contact a qualified investment professional and sit down, and he's going to do a risk tolerance check and a number of things to find out what you want. What are your goals? Where you want to be? What do you want to do? And what is your window? And once he does that, mutual funds can be in all flavors. Some are very, very conservative. Others are very, very aggressive. Where depends upon where you want to go. And again, that requires personal contact with a qualified individual. But you can, and there's over 10,000 of them out there to choose from. Invariably, you'll find at least one that will meet your needs.
Okay, and you're searching, trying to find at least one out of 10,000. Where do you go? Where can an average person say, okay, they're watching the program today, oh, I want to check into mutual funds. Where do they go find this person?
Well, right now, well, I'm one of those persons. But again, this was a generic situation. I want you to understand how money works. And if you see something here that you find intriguing and you would like to know more about it, I'd be happy to sit down with you or refer you to someone. Or you can do your own research. We have the internet. But I'll be happy to sit down with any of you and go over the specifics of your future and set up a plan for you should it be the case that it is appropriate. So you can contact me through Open Windows.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, I truly feel that what you're presenting to our audience today and myself basically is education, and we need to educate our community on how we can improve our lives.
Exactly.
And one of the ways is that we need to learn how to make our money work for us, because we've worked for it for so long. You've got a lot of things to share with us, and I appreciate that. We're going to have to take a break right now, and we will be back with more of Open Window in just a moment.
Open window, a challenge for your mind.
This is Vicki White, host of Open Window. We are interested in creating programming based upon local organizations and services. Please accept this invitation to call us or email us with your interests, ideas, and concerns. Let's review them. We're also in need of sponsors. If you want to be a part of supporting a family-oriented show, please contact us by phone, fax, or email. Open Window, a passageway to your mind.
While walking in a toy store the day before today, I overheard a crayon box with many things to say.
I don't like red, said Yellow, and Green said, nor do I. And no one here likes orange, but no one knows just why.
Well, I bought that box of crayons and took it home with me and drew with all the colors so the crayons could all see.
That each of us is special and everyone's unique, but it's when we get together that the picture is complete.
Hi, what a joy it has been today with our special guest, our very special guest, backed by popular demand, Mr. C. Frank Johnson, who is a financial analyst. I tell you, he has given us a lot of information that's going to help us.
Exactly.
With our future.
Yes.
And I like that. If there was one thing that you would like to tell us today, because there's so many, there've been so many wonderful things that I've heard today. I don't want to get off into the passive, all
those other big words.
I don't want to get off into the passive accounts and the Rule of 72. The bottom line is that we need to redirect and refocus.
Exactly.
We need to learn how to make the money that we make work for us.
Harder for us than we work for it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If there was one other thing that you'd like to say today, what would it be?
Well, in conclusion, I've run a number of things past here over the last hour. And what's happening is some of it may seem a little awesome, but please take heart. This is very simple when taken piece at a time. It's just like eating a big meal. If you try to eat the Thanksgiving turkey in one gulp, it'll kill you. But if you take it a bite at a time, it's delicious and fulfilling. And that's what this is. This is not a mystery, and it shouldn't be to any of us, because it is bottom line, primary to all of our futures. And after all, isn't that what's most important? Your future?
And listen, you are important just as your future is to you.